minutes. That's okay. Go ahead. All right, I'm calling this meeting of the Board of Education to order. It's October 6th, and this is our instruction work group. We are going to start out tonight by passing our meeting minutes. I don't think we have any public comment. I move to approve the minutes from the instruction work group meeting dated September 8th, 2025.
Second, Vicky Vandermeelen.
Thank you, Board Member Vandermeelen. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Claire. I'm sorry, I can't see Board Member Castro.
Hello, I'm here. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. Just want to call it right. So passed unanimously. All right, we're gonna jump into our first agenda item this evening, which is early college credit. So we'll be doing a review of the opportunities our students get to earn college credit and a variety of other credentials. I'm gonna start this evening by turning it over to our superintendent, Dr. Gothard.
Thank you, Chair Muldrow. Welcome, board members, staff, and community. Tonight we have two agenda items. Both should reveal, I think, really robust conversations and looking forward to it. Assistant Superintendent Cindy Green is here in place of Dr. Stanford this evening, and she's going to go ahead and get us kicked off. Cindy?
Thank you, Dr. Gothard. Thank you, Chair Muldrow. Jesse, could you pull up the slide deck? Thank you so much. Could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So we definitely want to read our new MMSD vision. What we are aspiring to be. MMSD will be a learning community where all students are valued, challenged, and supported, and inspired to reach for their journeys. I think tonight you're going to see how we're really trying to make that happen through some of the work that the team will present tonight. Next slide. And our mission, how are we going to get there? MMSD creates safe and inclusive schools, delivers high quality instruction, strengthens positive relationships, and partners with families and the community to achieve student self-determination and educational excellence. Thank you, Jesse. And our guiding commitments, ensuring that we are leading with equity, fostering belonging, delivering meaningful learning, improving with purpose, and embracing our collective impact. All of these are new for our system this year. Next slide, please. And a reminder that we as a district have set goals that by the end of 3 years, which is by the end of 2027, we have 3 performance objectives where we will ensure we are having every student on track to graduate college, career, community ready, that the district and the school is a place where children, staff, and families thrive, and African-American children and youth excel in school. These performance objectives are still the performance objectives that we are working under as a system while we are continuing to plan for our new strategic framework. These are the goals and the objectives that ourselves and our schools are all working towards. Next slide, please. And while all of our schools are working towards the performance objectives that I just shared on the previous slide, I did want to lift the newly adopted performance objective that the board approved in August, because I think there's great relevancy to the presentation and to the work that the teams are going to share tonight. While we're not measuring this performance objective as yet, tonight's presentation will show you how we are thinking about and ways that we will be able to measure the success of this performance objective. I also wanted to name that the Board of Education has approved substantial funding for the work that the team is going to show through early college credit programs, through the lab spaces in our high schools that the Board of Education and our community approved in the REF 2020. So there's been a significant amount of investments that we're really excited to share, and that I think as we move into the future, this performance objective will be able to be realized and uplifted. The last thing I'll remind the board of before I turn it over to the team is that last year when we presented similar data to you, we showed that for students and families, there was approximately a $7 million cost savings in the opportunities that we were providing to students and families. I just want you to keep that in your head as we go through tonight, because it's a significant game changer for many of our families. and how we're really trying to think about the benefits that our students get while they're still with us in the 4K-12 school experience. Jesse, next slide. And before I turn it over to Mary, I just want to introduce the team that will be doing some of the sharing and some of the presenting tonight. So we have Mary Jankovic, who's our Executive Director of College, Career, and Community Readiness. We have Langston Evans, who is our Director of College, Career, and Community Readiness. Meg Filkins, who is new to the team, who is the Director of CTE and Pathways. And then Becky Kundert, who's our Senior Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction. We're really looking forward to sharing highlights and updates for you and looking forward to the conversation. I'll turn it over to Mary.
Great, thank you, Cindy. So this slide really talks about early college credit, and I'll just kind of orient you a little bit. On the left-hand side, these are all opportunities that actually happen within or on our high school campuses. You all are very familiar with our offerings in advanced placement courses. And then we have our dual credit courses. Obviously with advanced placement courses, students do have to attain a 3 or higher on the assessment to be able to obtain the early college credit. And dual credit courses are again offered on the high school campuses through their daily schedule. Then on the right-hand side, these are opportunities that are happening off of the high school campuses. We have early college credit program, which is our dual enrollment through the UW, where students can take up to 2 classes per semester with a total of 18 credits. We have Start College Now, which is another dual enrollment program through the Wisconsin Technical College System. Madison College obviously is part of that. This is for our 11th and 12th grade students, and they're also allowed to take up to 2 classes per semester with a total of 18 credits. And then many of you are familiar with our Madison College Academies. These are for our 11th and 12th grade students. To date, we are serving a little over 200 students, more around 225, 230 students. We've got a number of academies that include Early College STEM Academy, our Education Academy, our Networking and Cybersecurity and Biomedical, along with our Running Start. Oh, thank you, Jesse. So tonight we're going to be focusing on the class of 2025. So those were students that were in their senior year, their 4th year of high school last year. And these are the different classes or the different access points that students had. On the slide before, I went over the numerous things that you are seeing up there, but we have 33 different advanced placement courses that are offered throughout our high schools. We have 10 dual credit courses that are offered at our high schools. We have 273 dual enrollment courses through Early College Credit, Start College Now, and through our academies, and then 7 industry sectors for youth apprenticeship. One thing I'd like to highlight on this slide is during this class of 225 or 2025, we had the highest percentage of earning college credit over the last 5 cohorts. So that was just a significant call out that I'd like to bring your attention to. Next slide, Jesse. This is more of a data slide that I'll orient you to. So again, this is the percent of students that have obtained college credit or a credential. So in just thinking about, that we have about 1,900 plus students in that senior class of 2025, we had 65% of our students either obtain early college credit, a credential, or even possibly both. And this gives you the breakdown of the different demographics in that are related to that. Just to be mindful that when, for example, when we're saying Asian at 73%, that is the number of Asian students in that senior cohort class. 73% of them were able to obtain either an early college credit or credential and or both. So I'm not going to read all of those. We'll give you a chance to kind of review that before we go to the next slide.
And what was the size of the class?
About
1,900.
about 19. Okay, next slide, Jesse. Now I'll be turning it over to Langston Evans at this time.
Thank you. And so as we think about this particular goal, we want to look at some trend data. So we're looking at 5-year trend data about our early college credit options. And so just to orient you to the slide, each bar represents the number of students in that senior cohort who have obtained that particular credential. In this case, it's taken an AP class by the time they were seniors. So somewhere in their educational trajectory, they had taken at least one AP class. And so as you can see, there is a slight increase in the trend. I do want to point out for advanced placement courses, this is the most popular option for our MMSD students to earn early college credit. And so it has been something that we have, and has been consistently true for us.
Sorry, hit the button.
And as we think about our future focus, how do we continue this trend and support our students engaging in these opportunities? We really want to map on what we are offering in AP courses and think about how they connect to specific career clusters. So students, as they are navigating their educational trajectory and thinking about a course sequence that makes sense for them, they're actually able to understand where AP fits into that, not only where they're going in high school, but thinking about what careers are valuing particular AP courses. So next slide. And so here we're looking at our dual credit courses. And again, these are the courses that are offered within our high schools, taught by our MMSD teachers. And so we're looking at the 5-year trend of students who have taken a dual credit course. And as you can see, there is a peak that happened in the class for the cohort of 2023. One thing we want to note is that Madison College, which is our provider of that partnership for dual credit courses, they discontinued a course that was in its algebra course that many students were taking in 2023. So just want to note that. And then as we think about our future focus, this is the opportunity that we want to expand. Because our students can earn the college credit just by passing the course, it is already in our high schools, taught by our MMSD teachers and connected to our resources and supports that are within our schools. This is a really great opportunity. And so we are building plans and supports to expand this so students can have more opportunities to take dual credit courses in our high schools. Next slide, please. And so now we want to look at our early college credit program, which is our opportunities that students are taking on our 4-year college campuses. And as you look at our 5-year trend data for this, you can see that there is variability in the data. There's a slight downward trend. And what we see is our future opportunity of when we look at the courses that our students are taking and which students are taking courses, is really thinking about the courses that offer course advancement in college and that map onto careers in the 4-year sequence and beyond. And really highlighting and communicating those opportunities to our students early enough in their education so that they are being strategic about what early college credit programs they are able to take from our 4-year colleges. It is an amazing resource, and we are really looking forward to being even more strategic and intentional about how we engage and encourage our students to take advantage of this. Next slide, please. And here we are looking at our Start College Now, which are our courses that are offered through Madison College. And as you can see with this trend data of the 5 years of students engaging in early college credit courses here in the Start College Now program, there was a significant 1-year increase in the 2025 class. And we are actually digging into that right now to really understand better what went into that increase in the number of students taking Start College Now courses. And when we think about where we are going with our Start College Now, it is really highlighting and communicating and targeting our opportunities to students in these high wage earning occupations that are tied to these Start College Now courses and certifications. Things like the EMT firefighter, things like phlebotomy, things like welding, that are all opportunities through our Start College Now. We want to continue to make sure that they're well understood and communicated within our school buildings. And I just wanted to point out that our early college credit numbers that we showed here in the 5-year trend data did not include our college academies. So as Mary previously mentioned, that does not include the 225 students that are full-time students at Madison College, and that every class they take is a college class. So when we see our trend data, that does not include the actual implementation and growth of that program. And so now I'll pass it to Dr. Philbins.
Hi, everybody. I'm gonna switch gears slightly and we're gonna talk a little bit more about work-based learning and those opportunities that might live outside of the traditional coursework. So we have our school year work-based learning models, and we are doing some exciting things starting this year to tier out the ways we think about work-based learning. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. We're gonna highlight our summer internship program, which is really probably one of our highlights of what we do in terms of work-based learning. We're partnering with the City of Madison as one of our most diverse, most robust programs that we currently have, and we want to think about how we can expand that into the school year. And then our youth apprenticeship program, which is a program that we offer to upper class students in terms of working with the Department of Workforce Development, and it's paid hands-on learning at a more capstone or intense experience. And then we also offer through our coursework and through the opportunities at Madison College, industry recognized credentials. It's our skill attainment at that highest level. It's what employers are looking for. They are recruiting and screening and hiring, and also retaining and advancing applicants and employees. So we want to see how we can incorporate more of that into our school program. Next slide. So thinking about work-based learning and specifically highlighting our paid summer internships. This past summer, and this is where we're deviating slightly from the class of 2025, this is actually representing all of our students this past summer from the summer of 2025. And we had 17 Dane County internship sites across the city, partnering with Madison and across the county, 261 students, you can see the breakdown there, and earning over 155 credits. In terms of our future focus, we just wanted to highlight what we're implementing through this year is that we're really thinking about work-based learning in terms of different tiers or levels, such that students would enter in at a tier 1 or this introductory where they're getting their feet wet, they're doing some work credit. Then what we really want them to do is move into skill building and really moving in towards those jobs that are more career focused. Your first job might be at the grocery store or at a fast food restaurant, but what do we do next? How do we help kids move further along what they want to do for a career? And then that last tier 3 would be more of the high school, with the youth apprenticeship, like the best example of that. Next slide. Thinking more specifically about youth apprenticeship, again, this slide is showing a trend across time. This is not those classes of each year like we were seeing before, but when we look at the school year in 2022, 23 to 23, 24, and 24 to 25, we are seeing a steady growth in the number of students who are participating in youth apprenticeship, and then also a steady growth in the number of employers who are involved. And from our future focus, we've created some very specific benchmarks in terms of the number of students and how we want to expand our youth apprenticeship program, both ambitious but realistic, and then expanding partnerships with the industry sectors and Madison-based employers so that we meet these ambitious goals that we have set for the number of students participating in youth apprenticeship. This slide is just orienting you to what we think about in terms of industry credentials. On the left-hand side is through the Department of Workforce Development, they offer something called the CTE incentive grants. And so there are very specific sets of certifications that they look to see for that student in that most recent graduating class. How many of your students earned these specific credentials? So we outlined for those for you on the left, just based on data we just submitted last week. And then on the right-hand side are opportunities that are just available even within this school year in terms of 25 enrollments. Students can be earning different types of industry recognized credentials when they are parts of different classes that we offer through our high school buildings. And in terms of a future focus, what we are wanting to do is increase our awareness and opportunity for students to have access to earn the credentials through their coursework, and then make sure we're taking the steps that 100% of our students who are enrolled in these classes go on to earn the certification. And then next up, I think turning over to Becky here.
So I'm just gonna highlight one specific industry credential, which is the seal of biliteracy for us in Wisconsin, knowing that that's approved through DPI. And as we know that this is a highly sought after thing for employers across Madison, that we're really looking for students to be bilingual. And so just to list the criteria for you, that the proficiency needs to be demonstrated within that assessment for English, within the ACT, AP, or Access assessment, and then also that they need to maintain and demonstrate their proficiency through the world language assessment as well in another language. If you go to the next slide, you will see our data. As you can see where we've been at, 19 and 20 with COVID, and then as it has risen. Just to note that every year in red has been when they were assessing 2 area domains for the seal of biliteracy. In this past year in the blue that you can see, it had dropped, but they are assessing all 4 domains of reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So that has been an increase for students to demonstrate their proficiency in. One of the things that we really want to highlight is, as you can see, there's multiple languages that we can assess on that students can demonstrate their bilingualism. And it continues to grow, of course, as you know. But I think when you think about our future focus across Madison, is that I would say that this specifically is not really talked about a lot. And so, like, what way can we elevate our communication for our families, for them to know that we want kids to be able to stay in language all throughout high school, as well as celebrate the languages that the multiple languages that our students bring to us every day. So for us, I think our future focus is really going to be about how are we building the awareness about the seal of biliteracy, how are we communicating that with families, and how are we communicating early, right? Kids like start to take this in middle school and then they drop off once they get to choices in high school. And so how can we keep the energy going for them as they continue to then demonstrate their bilingualism throughout? Next slide, I think, is discussion.
So before I turn it over to Chair Muldrow, a couple of things that I just want to highlight is back to the future performance objective that the Board of Education approved. These are some of the ways that we are thinking about how we will measure success of that. And I think the other thing that's important is we've pivoted over the last few years to really think about the ways to build in opportunities for students more in the career-focused area. What we've heard from students over the last few years is there's more students that are interested in going a different route than the traditional 2-year or 4-year college. And so as we learn what our students want, we're continuing to build out the programming for that. And so while some of those numbers might be smaller than what you're seeing in AP or in some of the other college credits, it is the place where we're continuing to evolve and grow based on what we're hearing from our students. I think the class of 2023 is the class that really showed us that they're interested in the trades, they're interested in the workforce more often. And so that is definitely the direction we're going. So we're really excited about some of the opportunities and the investments from the board, the dual credit investment that the board made for this year to get more teachers certified, the lab spaces and other things. So we're really looking forward to both what you want to talk about, but also what the future looks like for our students. So with that, I'll turn it back to Chair Muldrow.
Thank you so much, Cindy Green. All right, I want to let board members know that I'm going to continue letting folks know what time it is when they start and what time it is when they end. My hope is that allows for folks to refine their questions and have the most thoughtful and prepared questions possible. Obviously, everybody gets to take the time that they need to ask what they need to ask relevant to what we are talking about and what we have notes for. Board Member Vandermeulen? see you.
Yes, my first question, actually, first is a comment. I want to thank the language that we did, the biliterary seal in American Sign Language. I think that is absolutely huge because I do a lot of work with interpreters, especially in the court system. They are invaluable and everything stops. If you do not have an interpreter, you cannot move. And so it's hugely important. But as for one thing on growth, I noticed that 26% of individuals with disabilities take a lot of these classes, and that is good. My question is, have we thought about, I know Edgewood has what we call a think college for people with intellectual disabilities. Have we ever thought of partnering with them for possible credit?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Dr. Wiggins answer that question. I think she's been working most closely with thinking about our students with disabilities.
Sure, I think, most recently, I was one of the administrators at Memorial, and one of my charges was the administrator for special education, so this has been part of my world, and as we think about your specific question, I would say I don't believe that's on my understanding, but it's certainly something we can think through, and I know the program they have at Edgewood certainly have worked with them in the past in different ways. In terms of how we help access students with disabilities and making sure they are part of these opportunities, I think it has to be on our radar. We have to continue to think through these different community organizations can become involved. And I think some of the organizations that are part of helping and assisting our students with disabilities access employment and access additional training in the post-secondary world might not always be in the same conversations as these organizations that we are talking about. And that's for me in the world of just living through it. Like, I've been in many IEP meetings, and I don't think we were talking about industry credentials or pursuing a youth apprenticeship. And now we need to, and I think that's one of the things I bring to this role, is that I am thinking about, what about our students with disabilities? What are we doing for our students who are in our 18 to 21 community transition programs, for our students who are going through campus? How do we make sure that they are part of all of these different experiences as well?
I found that really interesting and very helpful. My last thing is on the curriculum of AP classes. Are we allowed to do disability accommodations to a point on AP as long as it doesn't modify the curriculum?
The students are allowed to absolutely have accommodations in a course if it's AP to accredit accommodations are.
So like, for example, I'm taking an example out of left field, okay? If you had a asterisk in one class, that doesn't mean you grading in one class, it doesn't mean you can't take it in another, correct?
Correct. You
Like
don't
in
have to
May and
modify.
mathematics, I would be an asterisk in one and not the other.
It doesn't mean that you're automatically blanket across the board for the course.
That's what I was curious about, and that's all I have, Chair.
Thank you. Board Member Vandermeulen, your question started at 5:25 and ended at 5:28.
3 minutes, nice.
Board Member Mulcha. I made some notes going through here, so I'm a little bit gonna lean into this side of, like, I was kind of focused a little bit on the students with IEPs, but I also just have a couple questions on like how some of the parts of the presentation, how I'm able to kind of grasp that. And like in the first part that we were going through, where it talks about the district improvement plan goals. Like, I know the percentages, like we want to do that, but I'm also like want to know like where we're at.
Sure, for the district improvement goals.
Yeah.
So
like,
I
there's,
think,
like,
yeah.
there's a growth metric that you have, like,
Yeah.
but like, where are
So,
we now?
yeah, so I don't have that offhand, but I will remind the board that I think in a weekly update in the last few weeks, our research assessment and improvement team provided a chart that shows exactly how close we are towards meeting our goals of 2027 for each one of our performance objectives. So there is information in there. I can pull it up and we could probably have it reshared in a weekly update, but it's definitely in a weekly update. And it shows where we are towards meeting our goals.
I just think it's like helpful when we're doing like full presentations like this, if I can have, like, if we wanna like focus on like what we wanna do for time, I find it helpful to also like to just to be straight out cognizant of where we are right now too, because literacy is one of the strongest points that we wanna drive for graduates. And I mean, even if it's something that we wanna raise by a significant amount, I just wanna know, I just like to be reminded of where we're at. So otherwise I have to go. I just have to go back there. I just think it's easier just presentationally on for me to just stay on top of things for to have everything together. I was also looking at that we have 74% of students with IEPs that don't have any college credits, and I'm wondering what can we do internally to change that? And what are they focusing on instead? Like what direction are they? Is there somewhere where they are being led moreover so than looking at college credits? Like where is that destination going if they're not?
Mary or Meg, if you want to start.
Yeah, I think that when we think about our students with IEPs, I think there's a lot of room for growth in this area for sure. I think we need to be more deliberate and more strategic when we're sitting in IEP meetings about that individual student of the IEP should be about is how are we thinking through whether it's a college credit or whether it's a credential, whether it's participating in classes that are going to get them to that point. Those are all ways that we need to connect deeper around our special education. And I think if we start doing more of that, we're going to see an uptick in that percentage of students. We have many, many students who have the capacity and the potential to be part of this group. And I just don't think we're fully realizing it at this point. And that's one of the things we want to do as we continue along with our new strategic priorities and with the work that we're doing.
Do we know where this trend has been going over the past couple of years?
For students with disabilities?
Yeah, because
I
like,
don't know that off the top of my head.
okay, would we be able to just see if it's either stagnant or if we are heading in an upwards trajectory?
Yeah, I would say we could probably do 3 years worth of data. We've been tracking this. You might remember 2 years ago it was 61%, last year it was 62%, now we're at 64%. So we probably have 3 years worth of data trends to show. I'm pretty confident that the trajectory is going up, but we can go back and put it together.
And let's see, okay, then I was looking at like the nursing programs. I think that's great because I've seen some of those spaces that focus on that. I'm wondering, are those students also encouraged to look at like respite opportunities? Just because they kind of lean you into this.
I mean, it's like through like work-based learning or through different opportunities.
Yeah, because like nursing definitely comes with like a college, and career like output. But I'm very cognizant too that caregiving and respite are areas that we are struggling to fill positions in.
Sure.
In the real world today as well. And I just didn't know that was also like an encouraged outcome in that particular space, even though it can be highly focused on looking at the for you, like the potential behind that as well. I have one more. Oh, for the AP classes, do we know how long students are in those? Like, do we know how long they're in there and like how many years are they enrolled? Like, how many years a student is staying in an AP class?
I mean, I would say it varies. A student might take one AP course throughout their entire high school experience. A student might take multiple AP courses. For example, for the seal of biliteracy, usually they have to take sometimes 2 AP courses in order to earn the seal of biliteracy. So I think it depends on which courses students take and also kind of horizontally and vertically, right? Like across a single year, students might take more than one.
Yeah.
Vertically, like to stack them in order to move towards either what they're interested in college or career they may become, but it varies from one course to multiple courses. It is very individualized.
I think that's kind of where I was, that's where like my question is like, how long are they in there? But I also know that different colleges have different offerings of courses as well. And when we were like last week, we were highlighting some of the colleges and but I think La Follette was not
National Merit.
on there. So part of me is wondering like, is there something, I really just don't know. If
Oh,
there's
you're talking about
anything else.
national merit where they take the
Yeah,
pre-SAT.
yeah, so I'm just wondering, is there a difference in something, it's something that, is there something following that they didn't show up on that particular stat at all? But I don't know if there's, like, I'm just asking questions now.
Yeah. Will you repeat your question?
I think Nikki was trying to help me out, by which,
Board Member Saravo, the
do you?
National Merit Semifinalist
Yeah,
is an outcome of the PSAT test taken
Okay.
by juniors in the district.
Mhm.
Any student can take it.
yeah.
I would imagine many have taken AP classes.
Mhm.
I don't have the data, but it doesn't mean that it's not the only way that you
It's not a pre.
Right.
qualify.
Yeah, I'm just looking for like correlating things or like what's engaging
Yep.
students to do that, and why didn't we see one of them not on there at all? That's just something I was just noting. And La Follette's one of my assigned high schools, so I'm a little bit more cognizant of where they show up or where they're not showing up.
Yeah, I think it's a good inquiry, not to go too far, but the PSAT, Dr. Gother said, is optional, it is an assessment. And I think in the last 2 years, we've been trying to do a better job of promoting it, knowing the benefits that come with it, scholarship opportunities, recognition. And so I think there's still some work to be done, and it doesn't mean that students might not have taken the PSAT and taken
Right.
advantage of this optional, they might not have just met the criteria to be recognized as a
Yeah.
semifinalist. And there might be correlation to AP, but definitely not a prerequisite to take an AP course in order to.
Yeah.
Anyone can opt in to take the pre-SAT. So,
I was just kind of high on my mind since we jumped
Yeah,
at that and
yeah.
then we're kind of focused on in here, so thank you. And the last thing I wanted to ask about was the work-based learning.
mhm.
I'm assuming the students with IEPs are also part of that particular one.
Yeah.
So would you say that is a popular one for those students as well?
There's lots of different ways that students would be accessing. They might be doing something that is through like the
Right.
Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, where
Yeah.
more supported employment, work-based learning as it's categorized within this presentation might be students who are more of what we think of as competitive employment. They don't need as much support as part of their employment.
Mhm.
But it doesn't mean that all students can't participate in any of these opportunities. We also have to do a better job of figuring out if there are matches and supports that are needed for a youth apprentice. How do we get those in place? And so it's talking about collaboration across agencies that might not have ordinarily been coming together at the table. And we can do that. We just have to think about it more strategically and with more foresight.
Do they get a good connection with the workforce development through that particular program? Because that's always a strong connection after school to look at.
If there's a strong connection between workforce development
And the students that would be participating.
Coming from the perspective of I've had, I don't think that when we're talking about the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, DVR,
Okay.
and workforce development, I've not often heard those two terms coming together in the same conversation. So I think that's one of those worlds where I'm thinking, how do we combine these two better? How do we get these, when we're talking about a student needing perhaps DVR, how are we also thinking through these other opportunities are through workforce development?
Okay.
Not keeping those two worlds separate, but just intertwining them better. I think that's one way we can make headway with this.
Great. Thank you. I think that's good. Thank you
All right.
very much.
You started at 5:29 and ended at 5:39, and I see Board Vice President Maya Pearson.
Thank y'all. First I want to say thank you for this presentation. As a mother of kiddos who are taking some of these opportunities now in high school, it's been interesting to kind of be on the other side of this process. The first question I just have is like, I know that there were some mentions about the advanced placement courses and the dual credit courses as we were looking at some of the graphs. More specifically, just about the dual credit courses, because there is such a downward trend and it seems like it's like going down pretty fast. Even so I just want to ask, like, even with the expansion of some of the course offerings throughout the year around dual credit courses, as well as also some of the AP opportunities for students, do we know really like what is driving some of this, like the downward trend, and why it seems as though even with the expansion of offerings, not to say that it doesn't seem like they're being utilized, but do we know why that number is kind of going down and drastically too?
I can start. I mean, we can't say for sure this is the primary reason. We know that course offerings and course selections are what drive this process. And as mentioned, some of the courses that were offered are not. And then really encouraging students to select the courses that are best aligned with where they want to go. And so we believe that we can impact the students engaging in these opportunities by being very clear and direct and targeted in our outreach. And so what we have done is that we partnered with curriculum and instruction last year, and we created one pagers for all of our adults within our high schools about why one would take some of these options, which included dual credit courses, and how it connected to career clusters. So they could see, so adults could have conversations with students, counselors, teachers, and others that are in the building. So we can begin this conversation around the course selection timeline. But we haven't dived in enough to know specifically all the factors that are involved, but we do believe that course selection and course offerings are primary factors.
Okay. Yeah, no, I appreciate you answering that, Langston, because when I think about, if I think about like my own family, I think about when my kiddos were in middle school, they did attend right and they had very concentrated moments and times where they explored different careers and they were doing some of that work of kind of imagining, what a career or a pathway to a certain desirable career that they want to do. And so they kind of did some work around that. And so then my thought is then if we are, the one pagers and things are great, to let families know like this is how you can connect some of the work that students are doing in the classroom to actual careers in the future, but also get some work-based learning as well as other opportunities in the meantime. Um, but I think one of the things is starting early and kind of helping kiddos like understand and families understand like possible trajectories. And so I know that we talked about this in the past, just about trying to bridge that gap between middle school and high school better, and finding ways that we can connect them. So I'd be interested to see how we connect some of this into middle school and even in fifth grade, really. Um, because I think that, that allows students to think more openly about what happens after high school. So I hope that, we are able to do that and maybe that'll help the trends go up in many ways. But no, I appreciate the work around that. My next question is just about like what schools have what offerings and what programs exist at what high schools. Because what I've seen over time is some schools have different areas in which some students are more interested in. And some schools have more offerings around AP. And so I just want to know just like where those kind of breakdowns are in terms of like our high schools.
I can start and then I can turn it over to the team. I think that we have universal offerings across all of our schools in certain areas. And then, as you just mentioned, Vice President Pearson, the AP offerings vary. West High School, for example, probably has less AP offerings than the other three comprehensive high schools. And then, the CTE also is in different stages based on both the lab spaces that schools built out as well as the development of programming. And also this teacher certification, right? Because part of the piece, or especially in the CTE world, that dual credit certification is a key component for some of the opportunities for students. But there are some universals, and then there is a little bit of variation, and part of that variation is local context and each individual school community.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought there was someone else speaking. Sorry.
Yeah, I know, I apologize.
No, it's all right. That's good to know, and I wonder how some of our community partners, I know we spoke about this a little bit, but even then, like how some of our community partners are able to also promote some of this work, and I mean like not the ones that are like our high intensity kind of partners, the ones that we see all the time that we report on. But I'm even thinking of like Odyssey program through UW. Like, you know, a lot of those parents, their children are in our schools. So then it's like, how are we also connecting with some of the programs that we may not necessarily have a contract or a partnership with in that way, but that they are part of our community at large. Um, and so my hope is that we can kind of like look into how we can work with them as well, not just like the Odyssey program, but just other programs like them that are doing great work, or even maybe some way, find a way that we can work with the city. Again, trying to promote some of the offerings that we have because I think the programs are dope, and I think these numbers should be a lot higher if you consider how many seniors we're having, and even juniors, sophomores, and middle schoolers and such. The next thing I wanted just to ask is like, we made considerable amounts of investments in CTE in the, updating our high schools. Thank you to the community again. What other investments are y'all thinking that we need to make from the board level in supporting the expansion and continued work around some of these offerings for our students?
I said, do you want me to start, or would one of you to start?
You can start,
Oh,
we'll take it, yeah.
Well, I think one that's underway right now was the investment for getting more teachers dually certified or qualified from the Higher Learning Commission. That is key because the more offerings we can have on our campuses, the more accessible they are for all students, right? Our academies, the early college credit program, Start College Now, are amazing, but we'll never hit 100% with those opportunities because it requires students to go off campus to access them. And so we want to continue to ensure that we're creating those opportunities on our campuses. I would say the second area, and we've been talking a lot in the community about this, and then I'll turn it over to the team, is youth apprenticeship. So youth apprenticeship, which is at the highest end of the work-based learning continuum, requires about $10,000 per student to access youth apprenticeship. They, basically work 450 hours their senior year, and they're getting the highest quality of on-the-job training that they can get and getting paid and working. As we work with our business community, it is an area that people are interested in, but sometimes the funding aspect of it or the time aspect of it, so that's a place where we've had the Workforce Development Board put significant dollars towards. And if we want to continue to see that But I think those are things that are like underway, but really important investments beyond what we've already invested in, that will continue to support, I think, these growth opportunities for our students. But I'll turn it over to the team to see if they want to add.
I just think it's important to point out that CPE is about technical education and it's always evolving. And so there's just going to routinely be this need to continue to think through how do we make sure our students are getting the most up-to-date technological equipment, resources, materials that are part within that classroom environment. And so we continue to look at different funding sources and how do we best use the funds that are available and how do we distribute them to make sure all of our students get the opportunities. We do have to make priority decisions and welcome feedback from our industry partners around that. And we think through how do we connect that to those work-based learning experiences that students are seeing how their coursework connects to what's going on in the real world. So that's a huge priority as well.
And I would just throw in very briefly that our growth opportunities within our middle school experience, as you called out, like what does that experience look like for our middle school students so they have broad understandings of making connections between career ideas and experiences and their classroom experience. And so there's opportunities for us to really build and grow what that feels like and looks like for middle school students.
No, I appreciate you saying that. And thank y'all for answering my questions. My last comment is just really is that, I think as we are looking to embolden our relationships with like DWD and DPI around like the sale of biliteracy, I would like us to find ways that they could also promote like as a system wide of the benefits of working with local school districts. So I'm thinking about when I was like advocating for affordable college and free college some years ago, one of the things that we talked a lot about was the investments into higher education from the state level and what that looks like with our GDP, what does that look like with our workforce and growth of our workforce. And I think one of the things that we can figure out with hopefully the Department of Workforce Development is, through some of these offerings, through some of these programs, we're also investing in the future workforce of the state, which then invests in the future GDP, which then should mean that our legislature should invest heavy in public education because we are ensuring that we are not falling into the brain drain by educating the next generations of students and continuously doing this and ensuring that they have those offerings and they will become the future of our workforce and also those that hopefully will have their children here for years to come. So I think that is an important point to state as well as we're kind of moving through that. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Board Member Pearson. You started at 5:40. It is now 5:53. The hand I saw next was Board Member Mosner-Thaltham, followed by Board Member Castro, and then Board President Nichols.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, congratulations, Dr. Filkins. I think I missed that you are in this role. I'm sure everybody's crying to have lost you as a building principal, but I'm sure that your team here is thrilled. And to the whole team about this, just the growth of this program is really exciting. Or maybe program is the wrong word. Anyhow, I really appreciate the presentation. I especially appreciate the future focus in there. That's super helpful for me. And I'm eager to see where we go and how tiering this work helps. My first comment is about what constitutes post-secondary value. This is a comment, not a question. When I look at the performance objective, I notice that it doesn't call out CTE by name because CTE is one type of post-secondary value. And as we continue to see this work as part of our like overall performance objective for the system, I'm speaking to sort of everybody in the room right now, not just specifically the team that gave this presentation. After high school, post-secondary, students will value their ability to problem solve conflicts with their peers. They will value the ability to select novels and movies and music that speak to their heart and support them through hard times. And I don't want to lose sight of that. Post-secondary value is more than being able to pay for food. And as a district, I think that we believe that, and I want to see that as our, what is it called? The big thing, the strategic plan. As our strategic plan unfolds, I hope to see that value come out. It's more than just CTE. I share Martha's desire for like retrospective data when it's possible. And I would love, I know that, Langston, you mentioned that the academy data wasn't in here. Could we include that in next week's weekly update? Just how many students are in the academies right now as compared to previous years? And how many of them are getting that associate's degree? I'm just curious to keep track about that. I have a question about transportation. How does transportation work for this stuff? I'm talking specifically about where students are attending a course that's not at their school. So not dual credit, but the early college credit program or Start College Now.
So students have opportunities for bus passes if they are through the school district and they qualify, but also both UW-Madison and Madison College do bus passes as well. So if a student wants a bus pass, they have a bus pass and they can get to there.
Great. My second question is about how MSCR fits in here. Tons of MMSD students work at MSCR, some of their first jobs. I think maybe we're one of them. Is that right?
Not MSCR,
No, okay.
YMCA.
Okay. I know tons of other wonderful MMSD students get their start working at MSCR. I understand too that there's been some maybe work happening with MSCR students, or sorry, MSCR employees who are also MMSD students engaging youth apprenticeship for that. So I was wondering if you could speak about that. Are we able to capture a lot of those students who are doing that work? What's going on there?
Certainly we utilize MSCR as one of our partners around the summer internships and around our internship program in general. We have a lot of students who work with that, and Annie Johnson, who wasn't able to be here tonight, but she is our work-based learning coordinator. She is definitely exploring how do we take, again, that work that happens in the summer when there's kind of this almost dedicated time in a student's life, like I have the time right now to work, and we know some of those there can be different barriers that happen during the school year, which can keep the student from exploring an internship in the same way. But looking at MSCR and others, and how do we recognize, there are a certain criteria, there's DPI actually puts out 6 criteria to call it an internship per se. But how do we create across within during the school year, what constitutes an internship in the same way we can do it during the summer?
Can I just add one thing that I think is important? MSCR does a great job of sharing the information with students around work credit. So kind of at the lower end or the beginning end of the experiential learning continuum, it's just earning work-based credit. And so if you're working at MSCR, you also are earning credit, and you can earn 0.5, 1.0, up to 5 credits of something like.
Yeah.
You can earn multiple credits over your high school experience. But what MSCR does a great job of making sure students know how to go through the process to get the credit as well, outside of the things Meg mentioned.
Great, thank you. My next question is about who supports the process of all of this at the schools. Like, I'm a 10th grader, I want to do this thing. Probably I'm not just doing it by myself and sending it to you. Probably there's people at my school that are supporting it. So can you talk about what are the roles at the school building that are supporting this?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So it happens at multiple levels. So at the whole school level, all of our schools have a college and career community readiness team that support our students to understand what opportunities are out there, both with regard to course selection and opportunities for career opportunities and even one-time opportunities that are coming. So there are advisory times and periods where either students are connecting with staff or staff are pushing into classes, and they're going over the overall picture of what's coming up. And this is targeted particularly around course selection time. But then all of our students are also using our college and career readiness platform, which is Zello, which they have put in their interests about what they have their skills and interests, and they can see colleges and ideas. And so our staff have access to that. And that's when we can do targeted outreach and communication. So our students that might be interested in architecture, if we have architecture opportunities at the school level or at the district level, we can target communication to those students. And then we're encouraging staff to have conversations among each other so that the CTE teachers and the math teachers and the language teachers are all able to have conversations about opportunities that are within their areas and make connections for students. And so that's sort of the multiple layers, and so the players that are involved is that we have folks at all of our high schools that have academic and career planning allocation. They work with our counselors, they work with our CTE chairs and teams and others to really make sure that there's a comprehensive communication plan for all of our opportunities. And so they determine how we are sharing the opportunities both within the school and then the things that go home to families and newsletters and social media and other opportunities.
Partnership for experiential learning.
Commonwealth, do we want to lift up?
Experiential learning. Commonwealth's partnership for experiential learning.
Yeah, so Commonwealth is an organization we partner with specifically around work-based learning, and so their staff partner with our school staff as well as with our students to just to help coordinate all the different aspects that go into work-based learning, making sure students are aware of opportunities and are also building those employability skills.
Okay. Is that new? No, okay.
Couple years.
Couple years, okay. This next question is about the people on that CCCR team, the people with that allocation. As this work grows and we get more students involved in this, how will you assess whether or not the capacity of the person in that role is equipped to meet the growing demands of more and more students doing this type of stuff? So like, is that on your radar? How are you thinking about that? Should we expect to see more staff doing that type of work? Does it look like more counselor? Like what's gonna equip the schools to support more students doing this?
I can start off. So we fundamentally believe that this is a team effort, that no one individual or no one piece of allocation can accomplish this. And so one of the things that we are doing this year is that we are convening our CCCR teams so that we can build systems of communication, and schools can collaborate.
College career community readiness.
Sorry,
teams. No.
I apologize. I'm bad with acronyms.
No, that's on us. And so for our college career community readiness teams at the school level, having them come together and collaborate. We've brought them together each year in the summer, and now we know that this increase in focus on how do we integrate this is important. So we are creating that space. We are also coaching and creating roles and systems that are intentionally connecting what are instructional coaches sharing with department chairs and what is their piece of the pie. So yes, the role of a coordinator that has an academic and career planning allocation is to be the point person, but they're not holding all of the weight of this communication. It really does have to be every adult that has a relationship and a connection with a student that understands where they can go to get support. So we've been working with our FICE department, our Family Community Engagement Department, to bring them onto that conversation as well. So we are aligned in our communication and engaging those as well.
I really appreciate your detailed answer. Oh, did you?
No, I just said that was spot on.
Saying that was spot on. I really appreciate your detailed answer. I know how much work that is. I know how complex it is to build those systems, and I wish you and all of the people who are working on that the best of luck. And I suspect that as this grows, we might need to think about how many people are employed doing this type of thing in MMSD. Because I'm thinking about, 100 more applications for Start College Now. That's a lot. And it's great for the students, but people do that work, and I know that you know that. And my last question is sort of goes sort of with what what is Pearson, board member Pearson's, what's Maya's last name? Board member Pearson's comments about the community organizations that are participating here. I see that you said 17 Dane County internship sites. Do you mean just like in Dane County or like through the county government?
No, it's in Dane County.
Okay, I thought so. Just double checking.
17 different sites.
Yep, okay, cool. So when I talk to community members, I have talked to several community members and I've asked this question before, or brought this up before, that they experience barriers when they come to MMSD and say, I have an organization, I would really like to hire teenagers. What do I do? And so I'm curious about what that process is like when someone comes to you and says, I want to do this with you. Are there supports for them? Are there systems that are in place to do that? I encourage my spouse all the time, like, you should have an internship, and he says, I wouldn't even know where to start. And he's right? Like he would have to work with someone who knows teenagers to build something that makes sense. So I'm curious about where that's at and what we're hoping for the future.
Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think there's two different paths for that. One, Annie Johnson, who supports all of our work-based learning, meets with business and industry often to talk through the pieces that it takes in order to take on an internship. Because an internship isn't just, come to the job site and come shadow me. An internship is really intended for students to learn the skills of that job or that career. If it's a job shadow, right, and it's a one-time event, so much easier. But she really is out in the community. She's working with our city people and she's working with Workforce Development Board to really kind of cultivate and bring in more businesses and get businesses to understand that employability skill component that Meg mentioned in that tier 2 is an essential part, both from the state level recognized, but also for us to ensure students are. On the other side, I would say in my new role, strategic partnerships is an area that we are also really focused on, kind of understanding our current state of like who is partnering with us, what are their experiences, who is not partnering with us, and where do we have gaps. And I think that's some of the work that we're happening this year in terms of both understanding barriers, because sometimes it's not necessarily it's perceived barriers, but it's requirements that we might have on our end to ensure safety of students and the things we need in place for protection of kids. And it also sometimes is people might not even know how to begin. So we're really trying to work on improving that as well. And so I think this partnership with that office and where we have gaps for specific business and industry areas for students is an area of growth.
Yeah, and one additional thing that we're doing to foster and then actually accelerate is our work with advisory committees. So let's just give, for example, our automotive advisory, meeting with them and talking about just what you're talking about, where we have strengths in what we're doing, and then where are opportunities for growth, where are our gaps. So bringing those advisories in either a monthly or a quarterly basis. And there's a litany of them that we meet with to really foster and grow a lot of that potential.
So thank you. So Cindy, you expect that like as you do this investigation, you'll learn more about where people are finding roadblocks and what type of organizations are finding it easy and what types of organizations are finding it harder to make these partnerships?
Yeah, I would say in simple terms, we're doing like a landscape analysis, understanding kind of the breadth of where we are, and then a gap analysis in terms of where we don't.
Yeah.
And then we have some new structures in place to meet with community partners to better understand what's working well and where we have areas of improvement. It's one of our focus areas for this year.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations again on the new job and thank you so much. I can't wait to hear how it goes next time we get the pleasure of a presentation.
Thank you, Board Member Mosner-Feltham. You started at 5:54, it's now 6:09, and we'll hear from Board Member Castro.
Thank you so much. I learned a lot from this presentation. I want to echo Board Member Mosner-Feltham's sentiments about thinking expansively about post-secondary value. With that in mind, I'm wondering how I'm wondering if y'all are thinking and thinking in partnership with the extracurricular team on trying to price out that value. For example, um, being a member of the math team might also help you once you're done with school here in the district. And then my second question is, what's the landscape right now of the I forget the name of the thing I'm thinking of. Well, just answer that question, and I'll come up with my second question.
Mary, you wanna talk about connections with co-curriculars?
So, the connection with co-curriculars, you're absolutely right. We do have a connection with them. I think that's an area of growth that we can improve on. We do have a number of team members that are meeting with our co-curricular lead on a bi-weekly basis to discuss that, but I'm not sure I'm getting at exactly what the point that what exactly you were asking. Like, we are diving into co-curriculars and teaming with them around that, but I'm not sure I'm getting at what exactly your question was.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to make sure that you guys are talking with each other, and so hopefully that students' participation in either an internship or work is complementary with what they're doing elsewhere.
Yes, absolutely. We have team members that sit on the co-curricular team, and like I said, they do meet on a bi-weekly basis.
Okay, and then for our high schools, we have AP and honors. Are we continuing to work on the earned honors as well? And what's the landscape of that in terms of offerings at our high schools?
Mary, you wanna answer? Oh, yeah. So I could start and then I'll turn, do you wanna start? No. So across our 4 comprehensive high schools, we still have offerings in standalone honors and in earned honors. We haven't grown courses in earned honors. We really have focused on the 9th and 10th grade and in the core areas, so the English, the math, the science, the social studies. And then we've had our schools continue to offer standalone in most of those content areas as well. What courses run each year usually are dependent on course selection and what students offer in. But it's been, I'd say, pretty standard or kind of status quo for the last few years in terms of those offerings. The reason for that is we wanted to really, in 11th and 12th grade and even in 10th grade, focus more on the AP and the dual credit courses. So that's kind of the approach we took to where advancement or kind of just status quo for earned and standalone honors courses.
Okay, thank you. And then my last point, just on the transportation piece when it comes to earning college credit. I know that some of the college courses or the credits that students are earning are taken online. Some are, I believe, in person. I just want to point out that La Follette, I believe, is the only high school that doesn't have a bus line that runs from UW campus to the high school. And so trying to bridge that gap and maybe push the city to help establish a line would be really important. But otherwise, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Board Member Castro. You started asking questions at 6:10. It is now 6:14, and we will hear from Board President Nichols.
Thank you, Chair. I have 3 questions that are kind of at what I would say more the high level or the governance level, and then 3 drilled down questions. So thank you again for this presentation. Really good to have you all back. I was just looking through my notes and saw that you were with us last October, so it's been great to see the growth and just kind of coming back into the data a year later. And I am noticing like 2 to 3 percentages, 2 to 3% of growth from last year to this year, and maybe that's kind of on pace for the way that our post-secondary opportunities are growing. My wondering is, from a performance objective perspective, what would actually accelerate growth in this area?
I'll start and I'll let you chime in. I mean, I think one is what we talked about in the second half of that presentation is focusing on more opportunities with the earning of industry credentials, both in the field of biliteracy and also in the areas of trades that the team is really kind of using the future focus to build out. And then the other is the more we can offer courses on our campuses with our own teachers that are qualified from the Higher Learning Commission for dual credit, the more we'll get closer to that 100%.
I would also add to that too. I think continuing to be having a robust lens on the fact that we want students not necessarily to be in a pathway, but to be taking courses that build on one another instead of exploratory is great, right? But taking all the way to the left, all the way to the right, all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom, getting in kind of a course of study and being able to continue with that. Also, Meg had lifted earlier in the slides that being really intentional, that ensuring that when students take these trajectory of classes, that they're following through to complete the classes and get the credentials along with them is really, I think, part of what we're really honing and zoning in on.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
From, so my second kind of high level question, and Cindy, you just spoke to it around one of the ways for us to accelerate growth in this area would be to have more teachers certified teaching on our campuses in the dual credit courses. And my question from a board hat is, what would be an incentive for this? What would be needed to grow more teachers with that credential? Is it extra coursework that they're taking? Is it a stipend that then they would earn because they earned this extra credential? Like, can you just help me understand from, I'm thinking like future budget, what's the incentive?
Yeah, I'll give a great example. So the board approved for this fiscal 26 budget, $90,000 to partner with Edgewood University to pay for our high school teachers to go back and take the courses that they need in order to be qualified in the area of English and or math. So the incentive is we are covering the tuition for teachers. And depending on where the teachers are at with their coursework, it could be up to 6 courses that they would have to take. It's 18 hours in that content area. They may have some of that coursework already, so it may vary by teacher. That is one way that we are looking at trying to get more dual credit offerings on our campuses and thinking about really not just the teacher credentialing, but then what are those courses we want to offer that we think are most viable for students and transferable to their next place. So does that give you an example of a way?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I think just a real quick follow-up. Is that a conversation where I'm assuming that's coming out of teaching and learning, college and career, but are you also doing that in strong partnership with human resources? Is this a way that you all are seeing this as like a way to help folks within MMSD see ways to grow themselves and to move up.
So it's all part of our large umbrella of grow your own
Okay.
opportunities.
Okay,
And a piece that comes from this is a commitment to stay with us for at least 3 more years, right? Like you get this and then the commitment is you stay with us, but it's all part of, I would say, the talent development work that
yeah,
in my new office is being kind of led, and then obviously in partnership with our HR department, and partnership in this example with Mary's department and Becky. But yes, it's all part of this large umbrella of Grow Your Own.
okay, great. Thank you. That was just a follow-up to my second question. My third high-level question is, the district has committed several years in equity ICS. And from my understanding, that should have helped people sharpen a lens on inequities at the systemic level. So from college and career opportunities, can you tell me how you all or who is monitoring gaps in our system across high schools and gauging where we have lack of accessibility and where we would need to hone in more?
I can jump in on that one and then, I think it's what Langston had spoken to before is getting at a quarterly basis, these CCCR teams together to figure out what we're doing universally and where we're strengthening that, and then figuring out where we have gaps or areas that we need to improve on. I think that's our number one strategy to get at that. Because we know that there's still different pockets and different schools that are doing things here, some that are doing there. I mean, that's just kind of the reality of where we are. It's been a couple years since we've been able to pull CCCR teams together to be able to do that professional development and that collective learning, getting at exactly what you're speaking about. Langston, I don't know if there's anything you want to add on that, but.
Just briefly, as a department, we are taking ownership of the data and looking at where there are gaps, and then we work with principals and teams to ensure that data is shared with them. And there are action plans and conversations about how we are addressing the gaps. Each school has an implementation plan for our college career and community readiness work. And that implementation plan has specific plans about how we are targeting our support and addressing gaps. Okay. Based on the data.
So at some point in the future, I mean, I know we don't typically like to highlight specific schools. I think we like to talk more at this level, kind of universally, how many percent of students. But I do think it would be helpful because of our commitment to equity, because of our commitment to the vision and mission that we've just updated, to also talk specifically about where we see lack of access, inequities in our system, and what we're planning to do about that. And that's no disrespect to y'all. I'm sure you all you know that data and you're working on it. But I think at the board level, it provides an opportunity for us to be thinking about budgetary investments and having a different level of conversation than just staying at the universal level in the future. Thank you. Okay, here are my quick 3 drilled down questions. Last year, when you all met with us, so if everybody wasn't present, my apologies. I'm gonna try to just make it accessible. In regards to advanced placement courses, you shared last year that AP Calc, AP Physics, a AP Seminar, I think, and an AP African American Studies course were kind of recent additions. I don't know if they were just last year or if they were in the last couple of years. And what I'm wondering is, Langston, you had commented earlier that, student selection or selection really drives what the offering is. So relative to just those courses, AP Calc, Physics, Seminar, African American Studies, are we still seeing that students are interested in those courses? Are they still being offered? And are we noticing any other shifts just across our system around what students seem to be interested in and what they're no longer signing up for, just generally in AP?
So I don't have the specific numbers.
Yeah.
But I can tell you those courses are still being offered.
Okay.
We have expanded our offerings in AP Seminar. And so that's going to be an additional offering that we're offering. And I think the question about what students are interested in goes back to this idea of intentional planning and the conversations they're having with adults. I think the trends on students taking and engaging in AP courses is still strong. We're still seeing that interest there. And I think as we continue to really focus on our planning, even beginning in 8th grade year, what do you need to do to get to these opportunities? That sometimes students get lost along the way, even though it's an intention. And so, yes, I think I might want to take an AP, whether it's art, whether it's physics or something of that nature. They don't understand that there are certain sequences of courses that need to be accomplished in a particular order. So that's where we're really learning from students what they're interested in and is not. I don't have any overall trends in terms of by school or by group, but there are, in terms of what we see in the course enrollment and selection process, there are still strong.
Thank you for that. This is also referencing last year's presentation. You all did an amazing job of bringing us a team from La Follette. I think it was the AVID team. And they were sharing what they were doing at La Follette to address student concerns about taking the AP exam. AVID obviously encourages students to take at least one AP course. But they were noticing that students were a little hesitant about maybe taking the exam. And so they were starting some new things like bringing those students together, listening to them, creating a study hall, engaging family members. And I'm just wondering, is that something that has continued? Are other high schools doing something similar? Just wondering kind of what the current state is of that.
So the answer is yes, they are continuing that work. And that's where we sometimes have the conversation about roles and sustainability. But every school, understanding their data, has strategies where they're engaging that work. And whether it's through the communication campaigns, targeted outreach to parents and students, supporting students, and that's happened at La Follette and actually all of our comprehensive high schools and our alternative high schools, really having the conversation about students who are feeling like they don't have the confidence for whatever reason to either select an AP course or once they do, to take the test. And I think that's where we are able to connect with them on the level that they can understand. And it's been peer-to-peer, it's been adult-to-peer mentoring in different models, but it is something that we're still growing in our high schools. And we know it's a gap that we're continuing to address.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, and then my last drill down question is, and Langston, thank you for referencing our alternative high schools, because my question is indeed about students who are finding themselves in an alternative pathway. So for students at Capitol High, one of the things that was amazing about our walkthrough of Capitol High was that culinary, that amazing kitchen that we got with the referendum. And it does make me wonder, are students at Capitol High also being invited and encouraged to do industry certifications or other dual credit or work-based learning? We have students, so Capitol High is an interest, but we also have had a speaker from Operation Fresh Start come to our board meetings for several months now, just reminding us of the great partnership that we have with OFS. And I'm wondering for students who find themselves at OFS, I know OFS has its own unique program. And I'm wondering, they're still our students, so do they also get connections where applicable to industry certification or anything like that? So yeah, if you could just generally talk about the alternative high schools or programs and how our students
I'll
have.
talk about OFS and the alternative,
Yeah.
talk about probably the opportunities, and we maybe can highlight Mackenzie. OFS offers their own pre-apprenticeship opportunity for students, and it actually is part of their goal agreement with us in terms of the number of students that will earn pre-apprenticeship, and then they have a partnership with Workforce Development Board.
Okay.
So I would say because students are at OFS full-time and they create similar, not the exact same, but similar opportunities for employability skills, pre-apprenticeship, and then their partnership with Workforce Development Board.
Okay.
The students over there have that, and then they have a career center where they really work with students in terms of job placement, and or they have a partnership with Madison College as well for that. So it's not the same, but it is very similar opportunities that operate over there that they've really strengthened in these few years.
Great. Capitol High?
Okay.
Yeah, I can spot, so we just partnered with Mackenzie Workforce, as the board knows, super excited. That partnership is with Mackenzie and Capitol High. That leads itself to every Wednesday, students at Capitol High in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, approximately 18 to 22 students are doing a Leaving to Learn every Wednesday, where they're going over to get their direct instruction and hands-on experiences at Mackenzie Workforce from a certified CTE teacher that is in association with the Madison Builders Association. So they're there every Wednesday, like I said, from about 9:30 till about 1:30, getting their direct instruction. Then they're bringing it back, and what they're learning here is being brought out in all their other content areas, kind of project-based learning. And our hope is that this will lead to job shadowing, internships, apprenticeships, and so on. But this is, they've just had this will be their 3rd week that they're going this week. So we're super excited about that partnership.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm super excited to see that we continue to grow in this, and it is good news for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Board President Nichols. We started at 6:15. It is now 6:32, and we will hear from Board Member Saravo again, and then Board Member.
Chair. And actually, with Board President Nicholson, I think that she was bringing up the family engagement outside of the speak of like, what does that look like? In the general sense of if a student's not engaged, like where are we capturing that? Because like I was hearing a lot of like, how are we, she was asking like, what about growth? And talked a lot about like what are the credentials that the teachers are getting? But also like if we're seeing students like that we're not seeing almost anywhere. That's up to like the case managers that are down there. And I'm just wondering like, what does our family engagement look like when that happens? I was down at a high school talking with the case manager specifically. Different steps that she went through for that. So I'm glad that we have like these really, really good offerings of these courses and that we're really challenging students, but you know, some rigorous material. What happens when we don't see a student and we have a case manager struggling to like how to re-engage, but also Operation Fresh Start, Reach Rise, Office Youth re-engagement. We have those, but like sometimes a family engagement is like one of the core things that can get a student engaged back at school. Family. I don't know if that's more of a statement, if there's something that kind of.
I think, you know, we have to balance when we're talking about our dual enrollment opportunities, the ones that are happening off campus. We have a, you know, with the academies have a team of advisors who are working closely with students. The dual enrollment, when you think about early college credit or start college now, those are programs that are, they think a lot about, we're here to students. Most of our clientele are adult students, and they don't necessarily connect with families. That's one of the things we actually put up front to the families, is for them to understand, like, they're gonna talk to your student. UW-Madison isn't going to reach out to the parent. They're going to reach out to the student. Start college now, though Madison College reaches out to the student. So, but there are ways, just like your own college-going child, you can get involved in if your child chooses to move in. So you're right, there are some challenges and barriers when there can be things that aren't going well. But we also, like, I think the Academy, American Speaks the Truth, how those advisors get involved and making sure families are connected. And all of our schools have their ways of making sure, how do we reach out to families? I was an AP at a school for many years. What do we do? As soon as you pick up the phone, you call, you email, you're connecting with families when you see kids starting to disengage. And, ideally you're reaching the family and you're making a plan together.
And we also have point counselors that are with the academies at every school too. So as soon as the student kind of is not engaging, as you speak about, our folks at Madison College are excellent about getting hold of their counselor at their home or zone school and saying, we need to make a connection. We've already spoken to the parent, we've maybe already spoken to the family, but we need you to come in and kind of help support us too. So I can speak, like I said, our academies are very strong with that.
I work a lot with families, so I'm just always like,
Yeah.
really honing in on those opportunities where we can make more of a connection there. Just because we do have a lot of students, and that could be kind of a hard thing to connect with the parents during any given time. The other thing, the last thing I just wanted to ask really quick, which I forgot to ask in the first place, is do we know the literacy levels for students who are enrolled in honors and AP classes? Like, is that I'm just wondering, like, what is that data just in general for that particular cohort?
Yeah, I would say there is no criteria or prerequisite for a student to enter into that from a literacy skill perspective. We provide a screener for all ninth graders that it just closed, I think. So I don't know that data offhand, but it probably varies because there is no prerequisite. Any student, if that's what they're interested in and are desiring that, but we do screen our ninth graders 3 times a year. So there's a literacy screener to kind of see their progression over the year.
I'm just asking at a very base level as literacy drives, like one of our most basic outcomes, and what the faster that the student really engages, and that becomes this. So I'm just wondering, what is it? What is a snapshot of our honors and AP course students? Like, what does that look like specifically? Just because they're participating in higher ones?
I don't think any of us would know. We'd have to look into that.
Okay.
Board Member Saravo, you started at 6:33. It is now 6:37. Board Member Vandermillen.
Yes, thank you. On Capitol High, regarding the partnership with Mackenzie, I have some specific questions on that. And namely, are the students get to choose whether they go to have their instruction at Mackenzie, or is it every student? How does that work?
It's by choice.
It is by choice? Okay, that was my main question. My second question is there, if an individual with disabilities would need extra help, would we be able to provide it at Mackenzie?
Absolutely, yes.
Those are my 2 questions, that's all I have.
Thank you, Board Member Vandermillen. You started at 6:38. It is still 6:38. I have 3 questions. So I want to go back to our demographic breakdown of how many students have received college credit. And it was a series of percentages. And I think there's a lot to be excited about because I think what it really looks like is.
Yeah, sorry, Chair.
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted. I think what it looks like is the vast majority of our students are graduating with college credit. And so I think that's something to celebrate. At the same time, it is hard for me to not notice that our Black student group is the only group where the majority of students are not graduating with college credit. Talk to me about how we wanna address that, and what you all think is perpetuating such a significant difference between our Black and Latino students and our Asian students, multiracial students, and students who identify as white.
You wanna talk about the digs and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean,
No, go ahead.
there are a series of factors. One of the things that we've been doing is diving into the data around each of these opportunities and then disaggregating who has access to them and where this starts. One of the things that we believe this really starts in middle school and before, in terms of students putting themselves in opportunities to access. As we saw, the most popular option for people to get early college credit was AP courses. And we have noted that our AP course participation and our AP test participation, there are gaps in that. And so part of it is addressing that. That's part of what the La Folla team last year was talking about in terms of how do we break down some of these stigmas and allow students to feel the confidence in that. And so it's really been us working with schools to understand their particular data and how that is playing out in their context and understanding what strategies do we have to grow and move forward. And so it's really been that conversation. We meet with a small team from each school twice a year to go through where their data is in relation to accessing these kinds of opportunities. And in thinking about how do we support you in building increasing pathways for our students who have opportunities to grow within those groups.
Yeah, totally agree. I do also want to lift that when we talk about our academies, that you will see a switch in that data around that. We're really intentional about the acceptance of certain demographics into our academies. So you would see that much higher within academies than you're seeing represented here.
I think it's tremendously helpful to know that you all recognize this as an issue and are being strategic and pointed in addressing it. I think as a board member, I wanna support that effort wholeheartedly. And so I think there's a lot of work to do to create equity in terms of opportunity. I think some of that is very much about what we're doing at the middle school and elementary level, which brings me to my next question, which is, I am really hoping, and this is a question I'd like to get a follow-up for in a weekly update, so I'll ask that you all not respond, but I'd really like the data of who is getting college credit in the area of math, and then any explanation of what we're doing to address that long-term, in terms of the demographics of who is achieving college credit. My understanding is that in the long run has been disproportionately our white students, disproportionately our affluent students, disproportionately our male students. And I find all of that to be incredibly offensive because I am not a member of any of those groups. And I think that's true for many of the people on this board and in this room. And so it's something I'd like us to be really proactive and thoughtful in addressing. It's also something I think we can't address thoroughly unless we have the data to really support what it looks like for us to make progress. The other question I want to ask is a breakdown per school. This is a district-wide scope, what we're looking at right now. I want to know if you went to all 6 of our high schools, and we can hone in on our 4 comprehensive high schools for this question, if these numbers look the same at each high school. So are Black students just as likely at West, La Follette, Memorial, and East to get college credit? Are students at West the most likely students to get college credit? Where is pathways a factor and where is it not? So we have pathways at 3 of our 6 high schools. How does that change this? If we could get a little bit more information about what this is looking like at an individual school level, I think these numbers are really exciting. And I have real curiosity about how they show up across the district in its entirety and what they mean for individual schools. My last question is about language certification. And this question is a question I have some like hesitancy around the answer for. But I think it's an important thing to ask, which is, are our English language learners as likely as other students to get the certification? Do you all have an answer for that question this evening?
You mean the seal of literacy?
The seal of biliteracy, are English language learners just as likely as other students who participate in dual language immersion to get the seal of biliteracy?
I think the answer is yes. I think many of our students take advantage of the seal of biliteracy. I don't know offhand what that percentage is of the 80 some odd that earned it last year, were English learners versus were not, but I think that many of our students want to continue in their native language, and this is an opportunity across a variety of languages, as you saw on that slide, in addition to other languages. Sometimes students wanna continue to pursue their language that is native, and sometimes students wanna pursue a new language, but I would say yes. Anecdotally, I need to prove that with the data.
Yeah, I'd like to have a follow-up with that in our weekly update that gives us a breakdown of the demographics who are receiving that seal. So if our Black students are really unlikely to get that, I think that's something that we need to address in our system and be aware of. If we're seeing that 80 students received it and it is very, very reflective of the demographics of our district, I think that's something we need to celebrate tremendously. It's a really, really exciting moment. I'll be prepared for that to look either way.
It's the first time we've reported out on this data, so it's new for us. We are excited about it being performance objective and just focusing on it. So we will, I don't know what our data system looks for, but we'll do our best to get you what you asked for with our team.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate the presentation. You all gave us 23 minutes of a really great conversation, and we asked you an hour and 23 minutes of questions about that presentation.
Sounds about
We are gonna move on to our next area. I started at 6:39 and ended at 6:46, and now we are moving in to a conversation about the superintendent's wellness committee.
Well, we're doing a transition. Jesse, can you pull up the memo?
Thank you.
Oh, clean. That sounds like it must be new.
So, thank you, Chair Muldrow. A couple things to name tonight. We're really excited. So we're gonna give an update on school wellness overall. One of those areas will be our superintendent's wellness advisory. Ashley Pletzer, who is the lead for wellness in our system. She's not the only person that does wellness. She definitely helps facilitate cross-functionality and teaming, and these are superintendent's wellness advisory is gonna walk you through the memo that you all received. And then Chair Mulder, I'll turn it back to you for a discussion.
All right, hello, everyone. Good evening. Ashley Pletzer, Chief of Pronouns. I think this is going into my 11th year in the role of e-health wellness coordinator here in Madison. Wow. Dang. I know, it's crazy.
11 years.
And so I'm just gonna, like Cindy had shared, I'm just gonna walk through just like a highlight of the memo that was shared with you all last week. First, I want to add to what Cindy was also saying of that school wellness does not just happen in one space, that it really is a very strong cross-departmental team that comes together. And the intent being that kind of this, you know, school wellness isn't a department. It is just kind of like a term that looks at a comprehensive and collaborative approach to making healthier schools for students and staff. And so the different successes is I'm just acknowledging that a lot of that work happens in individual departments. Yeah. So mentioning that the superintendent's wellness advisory has worked closely with the board-driven ad hoc recommendations that have been shared over the last maybe 5 to 6 years. And those recommendations, again, being reviewed, progress monitored, and shared out with the advisory has happened the last like year and 2 years, more so 1.5 years once we got to that point of monitoring them. Their voices and experiences are then directly connected with the lead implementation team, which is internal departments who come together monthly to look at kind of where we're at and what we're hearing. And yeah, so connecting the stakeholders' voices to the people that do the work in those specific areas of need or recommendations for improvement. To date, 73 out of the 84 Board of Ed ad hoc recommendations have been marked complete and or like complete and continuous work streams, meaning that yes, we could say we're doing it, but obviously it needs to continue. It's not just like a one and done thing. Progress is tracked in the document that was also attached to the memo. About at least twice a year, I connect with the school wellness implementation team to kind of give an update of where their teams are around that work, and then update any progress that has been made, and then share that out with the advisory. For the 25-26 school year, wellness priorities include strengthening communication and awareness with all stakeholders, increasing school level supports through wellness liaison support, and integrating data sources, updating the wellness policy, and then continuing to collaborate with stakeholders, specifically moving into year 3 of the superintendent's wellness advisory. We'll pause for any question.
So Chair Muldrow, I will turn it back over to you. Hopefully you heard a couple of updates, one being the success of the transitioning from the ad hoc to the superintendent's wellness advisory, and taking a whole lot of feedback and input and condensing it into about 85 actions. And then the focus this year, one of those being the wellness policy that will come to the board at some time later this year, and the goals that they're setting. And going on year 3 of the advisory. So I will turn it back to you, Chair, to see if there's questions from the board members.
Thank you all so much for that update. Questions from my fellow board members? Folks wore themselves out with that other.
No.
Board President Nichols.
No question. Thank you for the memo. Appreciate it. I just wanted to remind everybody on the board that we have typically had a board member representative on the superintendent's wellness advisory. Last year, that was me. Prior to that, it was board member Castro. And then I think he had done that for a couple of years and was not able to do it last year, so I stepped in. I know, Ashley, you're getting it's getting ready to kick off, isn't it? This week.
This month.
This month.
The 29th is the first, October 29th is the first meeting.
Yeah, and you know, if there's a board member who might be interested in being kind of a representative in that space, please let me know. I have found those spaces to be really engaging. There's a great attendance from staff members, from community partners, from students. And I think, Ashley, you do an incredible job of like organizing everything, and people are really in on the policy, the previous recommendations, what students are saying. And so, yeah, I'm happy to continue, but and I'm also open to anyone who may wanna be in that space, if that's okay with you,
Yeah.
Ashley. Okay.
That's
Yes, I
one.
just look forward to us continuing the work on all of the wellness policy related items. So thank you.
Thank you, Board President Nichols. You started at 6:52. It's now 6:54, and we will hear from Board Member Saravo.
board member, Ultra. I'm gonna respond right away. Like if we need someone to be engaged on there, I would love to be part of that. I've been looking for more things to like put myself in on, and I think this kind of goes right down my alley too. I like work like this. I'm just trying to kind of get more engaged with the different parts of MMSD. That's an uplift our students and staff on a daily basis, and welcome to learn about it more and see if, you know, if there's anything I can kind of offer up too with listening in or participating in there. Obviously, with Board President Nichols, if there's something like if you're still participating in it, or if you want to kind of talk.
I can talk offline. I think you
Yeah.
are indicating interest, sorry to point, and board member Mosner Feltham. So
Okay.
Jesse, I can follow up with you as well, because I know the invites were going out.
I think last Friday.
Yeah, I saw something last week. Yep. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Saravo. You started at 6:54 and at 6:55. Board Member Mosner Feltham.
Thanks. Thank you so much for the memo, and the grid is so helpful. So whoever has had their hand on this, I really appreciate the organization to be able to go back to all of these outcomes. I guess my only question is if you could talk a little bit about like one place where you think things are like just gliding along super well and one place where you're like a little stuck. I would just be curious to sort of understand where things. That's a question for that. I know it's kind of weird to be like, tell me about what's hard, but it just helps me to get a bigger picture.
Yeah, as far as the recommendations, are you thinking, or like
I'm
larger
thinking- so
policy?
When I look at this, and you, like you said, school wellness is not a department. This is like, there's so much interconnected work that's coming out in this memo and in the grid. And so I'm curious, like, given that it seems like this work lives everywhere, where it's going really well and where you're experiencing more friction.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when we look at the recommendations specific to the student mental health and wellness section, so there's the 84 I'm getting it wrong, I think. What did I say? 84 recommendations. We made them into themes. So there's like the advisory panel, buildings and services,
Yeah.
nutrition. And then the team narrowed down, or the advisory helped narrow down to identify priorities, and student mental health was one of them, like increasing communication. And you know, the example of that, they launched the 5 to Thrive campaign in schools. You'll see flyers and posters up, maybe one in this room, maybe out in the hallway, around just like how to tap into mental health resources for youth, and then also engaging in youth voice. So bringing in like, I know the mental health team worked a lot with Student Senate last year, and then they put on their first, the mental health student summit. So I feel like that's going strong, and just continuing that work and learning more around like, what are the barriers to knowing what's available, how to access it, things like that. An area of growth, I would say that's continuing upward as we've had different staff turnover with HR, is just continuing to build out systems to support staff well-being, and staff well-being, not just resources, but also like, how do we come together as humans in our environments, and kind of like an adult cell piece in a way. So I feel like it's growing, just you'll know, you know, how many recommendations aren't all the way checked off. There's some that are in progress.
Sure, I really appreciate that insight. And congratulations about everything that's going super well. I'll be curious to see how staff mental health shows up as we look forward to potentially restore collective bargaining with our labor unions, and how that, I'll just be curious to see how that shows up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Board Member Mosner Feltham. You started at 6:55, it's now 6:08. I'll add myself to the stack. I very much appreciate the board members who are interested in joining this committee. My question is specific to our superintendent, because this is your advisory committee related to wellness. I have some real stress, I guess, about how we are staffing the different things that have been recommended, particularly in relationship to safety and security or restorative justice. And so going into this school year, we had a lot to celebrate in terms of kind of staffing stability. And I'm wondering how we're prioritizing staffing safety. So are we kind of able to fully see restorative justice being staffed at the schools where we've prioritized it? And therefore we could kind of drop in a day of the week and see that programming happening for our students. Our deans fully staffed, our security, was our security fully staffed? And were those things priorities going into the beginning of the year throughout our district?
Board Member Muldrow, I want to better understand when you say safety and security and restorative justice, I don't see those see them being two separate areas that obviously overlap in their daily work. So staffing, yes, we are fully staffed for our safety and security assistance. As far as I know, TJ, we might have had some turnover. Might have had some turnover, but definitely fully staffed. In terms of restorative justice, I guess I'd like to turn it back over to our team to give some updates on where we've been, where we are, where we're going. Perhaps I know that when you hear from students, you hear from staff, and you hear from administration, this is a great conversation to have because each of them, I think, sees themselves in a different place in terms of how restorative justice, restorative practices work in a school environment.
I'll talk about staffing first and then I'll talk about some of the practices. So a reminder, 4 comprehensive high schools all have a full-time restorative justice coach. That came from a previous ad from the Board of Education. And then we have a support person for Capital and Shabazz. 3 of our middle schools have a partnership with the YWCA staff, a full-time restorative justice coach as well. And then we have a team here. In addition to that, many of our middle schools have created with their positive behavior or PBS coach, the practices around restorative justice. And then something that we focused on last year was youth becoming co-leaders around restorative justice and getting trained as circle keepers and circle leaders, both in our high schools and our middle schools. And you might recall that we kind of culminated the work that the youth did through a restorative justice conference that we partnered with the Y and a few other organizations and had a big kind of culminating event with breakout sessions from our students over at the My Arts Center. And so that work is continuing. That's really led by our team, the Culture and Climate team under Leah Esser's department. But again, like Ashley said, it's kind of like the wellness. It definitely is a cross-functional team. And at the elementary school level, I know our principals are interested in kind of having 4th and 5th grade students start to learn more about becoming circle keepers. And so that's an area that the Culture and Climate team have been working with schools on.
Thank you so much for that explanation. I really appreciate the prioritization of staffing these kinds of roles. I think things can become incredibly strained when you're missing kind of key components of that administrative team. So thank you for your work related to that. I think my last question about safety in our schools is, what does the data look like in terms of saying these strategies that we've embraced or these recommendations are effective? Are our schools safer? Are we seeing less incidents of harm in our school? How do we know that we are, you know, on the right path or trajectory in terms of our approach to this body of work?
I would say that from the recommendations and the 70+ that have been completed and doing a direct correlation to either incidents or our climate survey, I don't think we've done that analysis to connect those yet. I think every day, it depends on how you define safety, I think, but I think every day our schools work really hard. We have proactive teams in place, we have reactive teams in place, we have critical response teams in place to ensure that students are psychologically safe, physically safe. We have staffing around that. So I would say that it's always number one of ours, but I don't know if we've done a data kind of analysis or connection related to this work specifically.
I think we always have more work to do. I think one area that I continue to be concerned about is open lunch, open campus. I think a lot of unstructured time can lead to some really destructive things that might come back to school if students come back. But that's a whole process though. I understand the legacy and history of open campus and for a lot of reasons. So we just have to make sure that we have really good protocols in place, and that means adequate supervision. That means folks that are consistently showing up where they're supposed to be. Good, proactive, positive relationships with students can curtail 90% of incidents that take place, and that's ongoing work. We're never going to get good enough at making sure that our kids know we support them and believe in them. That's ongoing work.
I really appreciate that you emphasize the importance of meaningful relationships and keeping our students safe. And talk about kind of the challenges that we need to continue to take in consideration that expand beyond these recommendations, and allow for us to leverage your expertise and your leadership. I think talking about safety is really complicated right now. I think it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And I think our students are impacted by the climate of our community in new and really harmful ways. And so my hope is, as there are so many things that become more hostile, more exclusionary, and for lack of a better way to explain it, like more cruel. We have a more cruel society. And I hope that as that is happening, we have safer and kinder schools, that we are providing an alternative. And I think it's the work of this body of governance to lead, with that mindfully. So if you all have things that you think we should be investing in, or you think we should be thinking about differently given the current culture, given our data and what you all have learned over the years, I hope you let us know. And with that, I will say that I am done at 7:06, and I will pass it to Board Member Sarava.
What time did you start on?
I started at 6:58.
Board Member Mata, I just have one question, and I don't know if you wanted to go in there. I'm just wondering, what does the meeting look like? Like, what do it says that this meets quarterly?
Oh.
Like, what does it look like?
I don't attend everyone.
Uh-huh.
Ashley does a great job. It's a large group. It's a really diverse group. Where President Nichols has been there too. Maybe you want to describe?
And we meet 4 times a year, in person at Holtzman, the last 2 years at Holtzman, just having one location from 5:30 to 7:30. Some type of light dinner / smorgasbord of snacks is provided. Usually there's like a balance between sharing updates, because people that come want to hear what we're doing in like school safety. Sometimes we've had Kat with restorative justice come in and talk just kind of what's happening. Sometimes I've shared different updates around other topics as well. But then also engaging in protocols that are sharing the voice of the people in the space, and making sure that they can, that it's a two-way thing, that it's not just like a sit and get kind of meeting, but also to hear experiences and recommendations from people. And I've also noticed just some natural connections being formed in those spaces. Like, I have a PE teacher that now is working with the bike fed to help support biking at in PE at Memorial. That's an example. So like,
One thing really cool is it's a representative of all staff levels. So it's MSC. I talked to an MSCR specialist last year. I was with a EA from one school and teachers and principals. So it is a nice representative group from the district. It's one thing I really appreciate about it.
And I've appreciated just the diversity of folks who are showing up, the different roles and hats and lived experiences. And I would say, given the protocol and sometimes the data or the updates that we're engaging at the table, you do a lot of good listening too, and you're learning how people are experiencing certain parts of our wellness commitments. You hear some good things that are happening that you wouldn't normally hear as a board member, and then you hear some things like, sometimes the students were like, the food is better, but it still needs work. No. So I've enjoyed it.
Is it all in person or is it like hybrid
I
at all?
think
We do have a virtual option. We encourage in person. Every once in a while, there's like one or two people that join online.
I guess my other, do we offer transportation if necessary? Is there childcare?
There is transportation offered to students that are on the committee, and then there is childcare provided by MSDR for the events.
At the same?
Yep, at Holtzman, yep, there's a
Awesome.
little room that we set up. They set up.
Cool. Thanks.
Board Member Vandermillen?
I'm interested in the school safety. I find that interesting. I think one of the ways that we could possibly, this is just my opinion from meeting with several special ed teachers, is is to have a protocol for staff that may get injured while working with our highest risk and highest need students. I've heard many a special ed teacher burn out due to safety issues. And I think that's something that the district could benefit if we looked into how we could possibly streamline that so that staff not only can be heard, but that we can create a process in which our students get what they need. Do not get me wrong, but we can still protect staff at the same time. That's all.
Thank you, Board Member.
1 minute.
Vandermillen, less than.
Got it.
Any other questions, board members? Student Representative Lee, do you have anything you want to ask about wellness or safety before we adjourn?
Yeah, so, Student Senate will try their best to continue joining meetings like we did last year. I know it's on a Wednesday and some of our meetings, our leadership meetings align with those days, but I'm trying to get the whole group to come for the first meeting. So, yeah. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you so much for that work, Student Representative Lee. Seeing no further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'm sorry, Dr. Goff.
Board Member Vandermillen, I apologize. I'll never interrupt your adjournment motion.
Sorry.
I know that's could I just add one thing? Tonight, we talked briefly about National Merit semifinalists, and it just struck me through the conversation. I checked some other districts, and I'm just going to share some data with you all so you can recognize the community in which we live in. Doesn't mean we don't have work, but listen to this. These are large school districts. Okay, so these are 6 different school districts I'll read to you. A district of 33,000 students, 5 National Merit semifinalists. A district of 28,000, 6. A district of 33,000, 2. A district of 65,000, 17. A district of 90,000, 3. A district of 95,000, 5. Madison Metropolitan School District, 26,000, 43. That's really incredible. Really, it shocked me. I mean, I knew MMSD has always had a long tradition of but when you start to compare it to districts that are quite similar to us too, this isn't just like random districts. I picked ones that I use as comparisons to us, larger albeit, but similar makeups, similar cities and things like that. So I just wanted to add that. It does not mean we don't have work to do. And of course, I want every student to have access to a rigorous program, feel supported to do their best and really pursue and stretch themselves too, if that's what they choose. We also shouldn't be in a position, I don't think any of us are, where we want to make people and push people, to take a very challenging test. But I just thought it'd be a good way to end the meeting, that we really are doing some incredible work, and congratulations again to those students and all who support them in our community, you included, Board of Education.
This is an excellent way to end this meeting. I will entertain a motion to
So moved.
Second from Board President Nichols. Student Representative Lee, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All those in favor? All right, good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair.